All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. It is Thursday, right? It's Thursday. I lost track of time. This is Allison with the Gallatin County Democrats. I'm really excited to have Senator Pat Flowers here this evening to share some updates on what's going on. So how are you, Senator? How are things going?
Things are busy right now. It's all the budget committees are wrapping up. So all the budget subcommittees are kind of going through their final throes. I was on what they called Section A, which is the general government, and we just did some final decisions today. As I was sharing with you earlier, one kind of minor victory that I felt really good about is we were able to add back in 27 million in emergency rental assistance that came out of the CARES Act 2 money. And a few weeks ago, there was 27 million was peeled out of that, and that's back in. So that's a really good thing. And Department of Commerce is now prepared to distribute up to 44 million for emergency rental assistance of this federal money by June 30th. So it's a big that's a large sum of money to support people who need some rental assistance, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that could use that. So I was really happy we were able to restore that. The other thing that we added in today was a $5 million again CARES Act 2 money that would go to Department of Administration for Unemployment Insurance Administration. So just giving them the ability to be more responsive to uninsurance claims, and that's actually really important as well. I've had probably more contacts from constituents over troubles trying to get their unemployment insurance claims met than really anything I've dealt with. So hopefully this will help, and that got restored today.
That's amazing. Thank you for helping restore
Absolutely.
that money. I
Yeah.
mean, like, why
Yeah.
wouldn't we want to have access to that if we have access to that, right? Like that's
Yeah,
amazing.
exactly. So what they did was it's been a little fuzzy on how to manage that because prior to the legislature meeting, all that money was the CARES Act 1 money was all allocated by the governor's office. But when the legislature's in session, they rightfully have the opportunity to appropriate dollars. And so while we're in session, we kind of take over. And there was a little bit of uncertainty how that would play out in the budget. And now what they've done is they've created a separate bill to make all these allocations, which makes a lot of sense. So some of it is in the next biennium budget, but some of it needs to be allocated before we have a budget approved for next year. So that's how we're working through it now, which makes sense, and hopefully it will allow us to expedite the process.
That's awesome. I don't know if you know that will know how to answer this question, but how would someone who needs, rental assistance, like go about applying for support? Is it through one of the state agencies at this point?
It is through Department of Commerce, and I don't have the website. I could send it to you after this, and you can post it on the website there about how somebody would go about applying for it. They gave away last year about 8 million in emergency rental assistance, and I think part of the challenge was gearing up to figure out how to distribute this money because it's really a new program, and the money was kind of dropped in their lap, which was a great thing, but it was a challenge to figure out how to get it distributed. So I think they've got a more complete mechanism set up now for doing that. And they're also going to be focusing on marketing it because one of the challenges was just letting people know this was available.
Right.
And so they feel like they've looked at the population that qualifies. There's an income limit And they've looked at that total population, and they feel like they've got a better estimate of who might apply for it and what amount of reimbursement they might be looking for. And so that's how they came up with the 44 million target just for the remainder of this fiscal year through June 30th. But I'll send you that contact info and you can post it on the website.
That would be amazing. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So what other bills are you working on right now that you want to share and let us know about?
Sure. Yeah, I'll run through a few of these. Kind of some wacky ones that actually one that just actually got passed, which would allow free fishing on Mother's Day.
Yay,
So
it
that
passed.
is that
Yay.
is that is going to the governor's office for signature. So that was kind of a softball, but hey, I'll take any softballs.
We'll
And
take
I've got a trapper education bill that should be on the Senate floor here early next week, hopefully Monday. That's come through committee, and that's something that's long overdue. We have education for hunters and bow hunters, but nothing for trappers
it.
formally through Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. So this would add that. One that's going to be heard on Tuesday that I'm excited about is it's called Generally Revised Billing Practices for Telecommunications. And this is particularly important to students who are moving in and out of the community as school starts and school ends. The way it is now, there are certain telecommunications companies, both cable TV, for example, and phone companies that will bill you for an entire month, even if you only sign up for half a month. Or let's say you move into your house on January 15th, you'll get charged for the whole month.
Mm,
Likewise, if you bail out at the end of the year and you leave on May 10th, you get charged for the whole month. And there's really no reason for it. It's just a policy that they've adopted. And so I was contacted by a constituent, actually a former constituent, that alerted me to the practice. And then I actually experienced it myself when we cut the line on our landline,
mhm.
and we were charged for the full month. And so this person directed me to a law in Maine that they just passed last March. As far as I know, it's the only state in the country that's done it. It did pass, get signed into law. It's been challenged legally. I think it's going to survive the legal challenge. So we'll see if we can get that in place here. I think it's kind of a minor thing, but for, hey, a college student, $100 is a lot of money, and
Absolutely.
I think this will benefit them as well as other people that are moving or cutting the line, so to speak. So that's a
Absolutely.
cool one. I just had a bill heard yesterday establishing an interim committee on soil health,
Mhm.
and we had a great hearing, a lot of proponents, and I, hopefully I'll get that out of committee and through the Senate and on to the House. That's an exciting one for all kinds of reasons. Obviously, soil is a foundation, literally, of uh, for all of us in our daily lives, and then for certain parts of the economy, the ag and ranching community. And this is an opportunity to shine a bright light on that and make sure that if kind of to look for other opportunities to build on capacity there between federal programs that focus on soil health, state programs that focus on soil health,
Mhm.
and to kind of fill in the gaps, hopefully, or identify the gaps and then fill them so we can improve our soil building capacity all over the state. So
Yeah, that's
excited
awesome.
about that one.
Mhm.
Um, I've got a bill also being heard next week that creates a couple different revenue sources for Bison management. Um, and that's also going to be heard on Tuesday at the same time at 3. So I'm trying to figure out how to juggle that one. And then I've got another bill on hunter harassment. Um, uh, and this ties to um, gates that are illegally closed or posted as no trespassing. that if somebody was found guilty of that, that they would also be subject to hunter harassment laws. Um, and, um, and, and so subject to the criminal code, so to speak, under hunter harassment laws. And I had a little bit of experience with that related to angler harassment on the Yellowstone. And ultimately, it was pretty effective in changing this particular landowner's behavior in harassing anglers who were trying to have a picnic lunch legally on the banks of the Yellowstone. So it is an effective tool, and hopefully I can get that passed. Some others, one that's kind of hanging fire right now is one that I was sharing responsibility with Senator Mary McNally out of Billings. That was to generally revise laws to modernize Montana's electrical grid. The foundation for us moving into more renewables driving our grid requires some improvements. And it's one of those things that you have to, it's a chicken or the egg thing. You can't move to that until you get this grid modernization in place. So I think that's a real long shot. Mary, I introduced it. Mary was going to carry it. Mary's been overwhelmed by other things. So, and we're running out of time. So
Right.
I'm not sure we'll get that introduced or not. I'm still hoping to get a study bill that I'm carrying for the Montana Library Association on studying broadband needs rather than just kind of throwing darts at a dartboard on where broadband is should be a highest priority across the state and in rural areas. This is proposing a comprehensive study to look at what the needs are and make sure we're planning for prioritizing those needs across the state in the kind of the right sequence. So that should still get introduced. I was hoping to do a kind of an omnibus sort of bill related to data privacy. That's not going to happen, unfortunately. It was very looking at some model legislation from Washington State, and it's kind of too big and complicated a topic, and I don't want to introduce it in a way that's not well thought out. And so I couldn't put enough time into it beforehand, which is a regret. There's still a possibility. I'm looking at some potential tax law, which could still happen, and possibly a study related to location-based cost of living adjustments for state employees.
Okay. Oh,
Those
interesting.
who live in Bozeman, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I do. We
So,
all do. Yep.
yeah. I'm looking at that as well.
Yeah.
That's kind of my list, so it's busy.
Yeah, very busy. And just to remind people, you're running out of time to introduce bills because transmittal is coming up, right? And
Right.
so you can only introduce bills up until transmittal, correct? Basically.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That don't have money in them, right?
Right.
If so, the bills that, like my bill on free fishing on Mother's Day, that wasn't a big money bill, so that I could have taken that up until the end of transmittal. But the tax law bill, if I ultimately introduce something, can extend beyond that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
likewise, study bills can go actually until mid-April, but you know, ideally you want to get them introduced before then, because I have one that kind of died out at the end because the clock ran out on it. So,
Got it. Yeah.
yep.
And so transmittal, I believe, is March 3rd or 4th through the 8th or something like that. So,
Right.
and you will actually take a break. You will actually
Yes.
not be in session.
Right.
And the bills in the House go to the Senate and the bills in the Senate go to the House. That's like
Correct.
transmittal.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, awesome. And I think we just, so people know, we are going to plan on doing some events with the legislators, hopefully, over transmittal, so that we can, just hear more of a summary and kind of what happened and what's coming up next. So we're going to work on that. I do have some questions that people are posting. So if you
Okay.
don't mind, I'm going to start
Absolutely.
reading those out.
Okay.
So the first question, in the Rules Committee, is there any way to stop the re-litigation of previously presented and dismissed or vetoed bills that's happening in the House? Is that a wave that has become this legislature's tsunami that can't be prevented? Because like we're seeing a lot of bills that have been attempted in the past, and now there's just, it seems like all of them are this kind of bill. Is there any way to stop that in the rules?
Ideally, yes. That's what the Rules Committee is for.
Mhm,
However, when um, there's a Republican majority on those rules committees as
mhm.
well, and depending on their kind of complexion within the Republican Party, um, you can get a sense of whether you have any hope of succeeding on rules challenges. The one that question may be focused on particularly was related to transgender
Yeah.
health concerns, and the bill generally, um, required that I can't remember all the details of it, but it was very limiting in terms of um, the kind of assistance that an individual could get in, transitioning and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
And that was tabled in committee. And as I understand it, and so we were hoping that was the end of it. Um, Apparently, it came back with some very minor changes and was reintroduced. Technically, under the rules, you can't reintroduce the same bill. And so in our mind, or in the House Democrats' mind, this was very clearly the same bill with only some minor changes. But they immediately took it to rules in the House and it failed. Or it passed muster according to that rules committee, so it will move on and go through, it's the hearings, and I'm sure end up over in the Senate side. We could do a rules challenge as well, but I think knowing the makeup of our rules committee, we'd be in the same boat. So we're left trying to stop it either in committee or on the floor.
Right, right. Once again, elections have consequences, and
Wow.
this is what we are constantly faced with. So another question kind of relates to transmittal, and are we, it's been really busy with so many bills. No one person can keep track of all of these bills that are coming, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of there are a lot of bad bills. I mean, there's just bad bills. After transmittal, because there won't be many new bills, do you think that it will kind of calm down with this, like maybe our perception, maybe not necessarily yours, but like our perception as being, citizens watching, like will it feel different after transmittal?
I think so, mainly because a lot of the bills that have been, I think, really disturbing for legislators, and I'm sure the general public who aren't over there, are related to kind of social issues. So it's these transgender bills and
Mhm.
um, other bills related to discrimination, and there was House Bill 102, which was the gun rights bill, which is going to get signed into law, and those things are, for all of us, really disturbing to not be able to prevent. And so those will go away because most of those are not money related bills. And so they won't have the chance to introduce more of them,
Mhm.
thankfully. Um, so yeah, in that sense, it will calm down a bit. In the budget itself, from what I've seen, it certainly in this general government arena that I was working in, they largely adopted the budget of the previous governor. The new governor came in and made a few changes, but in my opinion, not a lot. And so there were actually fewer challenges to the budget
Mm.
in Section A, which I'm working in this general government, than there were in the previous than there was in the previous legislature. There have been some pretty dramatic moves in Department of Health and Human Services budget, so we'll see how that shakes out. It's unclear. Yeah, in some of the other sections, I'm not sure if that's the case. So I guess we'll see, and that will begin to become the focus as we wind down in the second half of the session.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So there's kind of two questions. So House Bill 102, unfortunately, was actually signed by Governor Gianforte this afternoon. So it is now signed into law. Is there really any, like, now that something like that is signed into law, I think there's been an argument made that it is going to be unconstitutional. And so, is it legal action that happens next to try and prevent the actual, um, uh, keeping it law, I guess. I'm not saying that very eloquently, but I think you know what I'm trying to say.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, my guess is from what I've heard, there will be lawsuits.
Mhm.
And I assume one of the lawsuits will attempt to enjoin that from being enacted as law.
Mhm.
And we'll see whether they're successful in getting a temporary restraining order and injunction from preventing it to go into effect. So yeah, I absolutely think that's coming. Similar to the abortion bills that so far have made their way through, there's 4 that have come from the House over into the Senate side. We have not heard those they've passed out of committee, out of the judiciary, but they haven't come to the floor yet. And we keep thinking, tomorrow, but they're not on the docket for tomorrow. So I would assume next week. And from what I understand, those are all going to be challenged in court as well. And I'm sure they'll seek a injunction on those.
Yeah, yeah, that makes, I mean, hopefully, so I guess we have to take it. If we can't stop it in the legislature, then let's, take it to the courts on some of these terrible bills. So there is one other question, which, if you don't mind, I think I'm going to answer it. But it's, how can I get involved in the Democratic Party in Montana and Bozeman? And so thank you for asking that question. One of the best things to do right now is actually join us on an app called Reach, where you can see what the bills are that are going through this week that need you to submit comments to the committee or to a specific legislature. You can take action, and then you can actually share that action alert via text or email with your friends. And so you spread the word outside of your social media world, those echo chambers that, even right now we're on an echo chamber, but that's one way. So even if you just pick 3 messages to send every week, that makes a huge difference. And the more people that do that, the more we're going to overwhelm our senators and representatives with the comments. And from what I understand, you're already getting a lot, which is great. So we want to keep those coming. We also have a meeting next Wednesday that everyone's welcome to attend. It will be on Zoom. And I think we'll even do a Reach training so that people can feel confident using the tool. And then don't forget to just reach out and to me, and I'm happy to answer questions, talk with one-on-one. We also have a lot of precinct positions open, and someday we'll tell you more about what precinct positions are, but they're really the heart of grassroots organizing in the Democratic Party. And we hope to build a robust precinct network for the next election so that we have more Democratic representatives for the 2023 legislative session, because we need more of you, need more senators like you, Pat, in the Senate, and more representatives in the House. So that's what we work on all year, and that's what we do. So I think those are all the questions that we have. Is there anything else, Pat, that you wanted to share before we call it an evening tonight?
Sure. I did want to just make a couple general comments. One is it's as we were talking earlier, Allison, it's easy to get discouraged. It is for us being kind of in the fray over there, and certainly for you feeling powerless by not being directly in the fray. It's day in and day out. I mean, it's kind of picking each other up off the floor is what it feels like. But we're used to being in the minority at this point, and I think we know how to work in that setting and have some success. And we talked about one tonight. So I can commit to you that I think we all recognize how important it is that we play that role and that we can have some success. And it's important that we don't lose sight of that and get discouraged. Uh, I think the other thing is we're going to continue to focus on some of the priorities that we brought up through our campaigns and then at the beginning of the session related to trying to provide jobs for Montanans, provide great public education, provide for healthcare, and those are going to be our priorities. Right now, despite what they campaigned on, Republicans seem to be focused on taking rights away from all of our citizens in various ways and to providing tax cuts for those at higher end of our wage scale and taking money away from those that are at the lower end of the wage scale. So we're going to keep working to prevent that, and hopefully we'll see some results.
Yeah.
Thanks for the support. I've certainly gotten a lot of great messages from constituents, and I know all of us really appreciate that. It does pick us up, so thank you for that. And I appreciate the opportunity to update you tonight. Thanks a lot, Allison.
We so appreciate your time. I know it's limited. It's so good to see you and chat with you and hear everything that's going on and celebrate a win. You had a win today
Yeah,
with getting money back into the hands of Montanans who need it. And so that's fantastic. And so thank you for sharing that. And again, thank you for your time and serving Gallatin County and the people of Montana. We really appreciate it.
you're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Have a good evening, everyone. Thanks for being with us tonight.